Here's the second part of my presentation on creativity games and exercises for the classroom. Just as a quick review from my first presentation, remember we defined creativity as making connections to find new, good ideas. And those were the three parts of the definition that were very important. And I distinguished between the original idea that you might have and the final product. There are probably many ideas that will go into the final product. Presenting that final product or idea is the goal. We said creativity has two steps. First, you get a good idea, and the best way to get a good idea is to have many ideas. And then step two is where you turn it into a valuable product. There are some skills involved in creativity, and the whole point of this presentation is that those skills can be learned, practiced, and developed so that you can become more creative. And those skills are things like brainstorming, evaluating all the ideas that you did brainstorm, then that final process of actually presenting your idea. Speaking of ideas, I met with Corey Heath several years ago. He's a game designer, and we were talking about some game ideas that we had. We found out that we both had an idea for a creativity game. We were coming at it in a couple different directions, but it was similar enough that we decided to work on it together. So for about a year we worked on this game. We passed ideas back and forth, and he turned it into what he called the chicken game system. It was a generic system of many different creativity games that all had the same structure, and then I made some games that fit within that system as well. All of those games are available for free online. You can play them with just paper and pencil. But with his friends, he published one version called Why Did the Chicken? And that's a game about making funny answers to riddles. I turned that into a classroom game. So in this classroom version, the players are trying to make funny answers to riddles, but there are only 3 to 5 students that would actually make the answers, and then the rest of the class votes on them. Before we're done with this presentation, you should get a chance to play Why Did the Chicken? But first I want to show you some exercises based on the game. First up, I want to look at this example that I had from a game when I was playing with some adult friends of mine. The riddle that came up was, what do you get if you cross a cat with a mail carrier? Now when I was playing with my friends, these two answers came up. These were not the best answers. I don't think either one of these got many votes, but notice that some connections were going on. We have meow from the cat and mail from the mail carrier. Definitely looking for a connection, not really presented in any funny way, but we see the connections. And then we got fur and mailbox down here. Again, not a great presentation, but you can see they're trying to form connections. Another one that we had come up was the answer of a lot more dogs chasing mail carriers. Now notice here the connection is kind of implied because most people know dogs chase cats, and there's the joke that they chase mail carriers. So now that you're crossing this cat and mail carrier, we have this funny picture that the dogs are really going to go crazy and start chasing mail carriers. Notice that there's the connection, there's the idea, and there's a presentation in a way that would be funny, which in this case of the game is the goal. And then this one was my favorite, mail when he feels like bringing it. And this is funny if you know anything about cats, because cats generally do only what they feel like. Playing off what cat lovers know about cats will definitely make a funny joke. Now for this practice riddle, this came up in a game where I was playing in class. I want you to list some things with the class that would maybe give you a good connection that you could use to make an answer to this riddle. So the riddle is, why does Einstein love the internet? And do this as a class. I want you to stop the video, and as a class, list some things about Einstein that might be good, some things about the internet that might be good, and see if as a class you can find some connections that would lead to funny answers to this riddle. You do not have to answer the riddle. I'm more concerned about you finding the connections and doing the brainstorming than I am with an answer to the riddle. So take a couple minutes and do that, and then I'll show you some things that we came up with. When I did this with a class, we came up with this list for Einstein. Someone said he is smart. That usually comes up. Somebody mentioned relativity or his famous formula E equals mc squared, and his hair, because his hair was definitely something that could be funny. Then for the internet, somebody always says Google. Google's a great word if you're trying to be funny. YouTube, somebody said pics, pictures, any kind of image search. We could see that maybe being a good connection with Einstein. Information. And then we talked about how could you pair these up. Well, definitely the information and the smarts could go together in some way. I'm not trying to answer this riddle, but I'm thinking that right there, there's probably a core of an idea. Notice that we're connecting things to find a core idea. And then the hair and the pics, some kind of search for hair, maybe Google, just because it sounds funny. Okay, so those are the connections we came up with. I purposely left it where we didn't have to answer the riddle. You might have some people in your class that want to answer the riddle, and that's fine. Share some funny answers to this riddle if you have them. But the purpose of the exercise is to brainstorm, to make some connections that could be good core ideas. And here's another riddle that we work with in class. What do you get when you cross a cow with a dinosaur? And this time, instead of doing this as a class, on your paper, form two lists, and you're going to do this on your own with no input from the class. Two lists, one for cow and one for dinosaur. List as many things as you can for each of those, then try to find some connections. Now if you really get ambitious, you can write an answer to this riddle. But again, the goal is brainstorm, find connections. Take a couple minutes and do this, then discuss it with your class. After you finish that exercise and you discuss it with your class, you could try playing Why Did the Chicken? And I also suggest Say Anything. Both of those flip charts are available with rules on my blog. I just want to end with two thoughts about creativity. First of all, I do believe our creativity is a gift and we are responsible for using it. I think we should use it even when we don't always feel like doing the work that's required. And I always encourage my students to practice it so that they can create ways to help others.